Hello and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Chances. Today I'm going to talk about Start Playing Games, the site that I found a couple of years ago. Decided to throw my hat into the ring as I really want to do this professional dungeon mastering thing and hopefully one day get good at it. So I made my account and have had a lot of experiences. And this Saturday night, I narrated my 250th game on the site. So that's quite a milestone 250 paid sessions in the last just about 2 years. This doesn't count other things that I've done, which, at conventions and such, just on Start Playing Games, which means we're talking about online games only. Online games is a way different experience than in-person games. So I wanted to give a little bit of my thoughts in an, of course, unscripted episode, as all my episodes and pretty much everything I do is unscripted. So I did make an outline so that I can kind of prompt myself to continue on, not to fumble like I seem to be doing. Anyway, let's get to it. So first off, I want to talk about prepping for games. That's the first step when you're running a game, is to prep for the game. So I want to give a little bit of, insight or, ideas and things, and just maybe give you a glimpse inside of what it is that I do, what I have done, the changes that I've made. So here you go. I've tried many different methods. Of course, I have purchased everything Sly Flourish has. If you don't know who Sly Flourish, the Lazy DM, I highly recommend you to listen to his podcast, which is awesome. His podcast is great, or you can watch him on YouTube. I will put some links in the doobly-doo, as Matthew Cullen says. And he has a book called The Lazy Dungeon Master, Guide to the Lazy Dungeon Master, something, Lazy Dungeon Master. And he's got where he uses Notion and he does his quick start and all this. And I don't want to give what he does right here. I'm not going to get into all of that. But I listen to that. I listen to everyone. I listen to so many different ideas. And at first, what I did was kind of sort of what I used to do is like memorize sections of books. Or, of course, falling into the errors that so many of us make where we think we know what our players are going to do. And so we prepare for certain outcomes that inevitably do not come to pass, as our players always opt for the option that's not on the table. And you have to scramble and come up with something for them without them realizing too much that you scrambled and come up with something for them. Yeah. So I've went away from that, and I've tried so many different things, including writing notes on using notes. And I did that for a while with bullet points, and as they came and did the things that I thought they might do in a night, just review it, put it down there so you kind of always had like an outline of what they could go to. I did that for quite some time. I got away from it. I write. Sometimes I plan and write notes in a notebook. I kind of got away from that as well. And I just started using the VTT that D&D Beyond has called Maps. And in Maps, they give you a map, but they don't give you like setups like Roll20 does. So in Roll20, you'll have all of the encounters already set up and all of the areas that your players can go to. And that's a huge help, right? I mean, that's a huge help. However, by having to kind of look over the encounters, all of the possible encounters that they could do, and set them up, even if they don't get to it that week, the whole process of setting them up in Maps kind of gives me an idea, hey, what's going on here and how I'm going to run a particular encounter. Of course, that's always subject to change because as I get more and more sessions under my belt, I kind of like to just keep my thumb on the pulse of the party and kind of go where they're taking me and be ready for it. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Now, definitely, I am taking notes now, limited notes on a notebook, but this is not prepping anymore. This is during the sessions. So that as part of my prep work, I look back into the notes that I did for myself in the session that we ran the previous week. And that will just show basically bullet points for the people they talked to and the areas that they visited. That way I can remember, oh, yes, they visited this place, and this place, and they talked to these two people. That's really all I kind of need to know. Now, I've had a couple of groups as of late that are just awesome at note taking. And now that's changed my style a little bit where I want someone in every group that is going to take great notes. And as part of my prepping before the session, I will read over those notes because that gives me a refresher on what happened the week before and kind of as a reminder of what could potentially happen in the next session. I also don't like prepping anything before the day of. I feel like I might not remember, unless I'm making notes, which I've kind of gotten away from that. So I review things. And the other part that's very important for me as the way that I run a game is the non-player characters, the NPCs. I don't want to know the canned text that they might have to say or anything like that. I have no interest in that anymore. What I do is I want to look for what are their traits, what do they want, what do they know. That's it. So if I know their traits, I know how they act. If I know what they want, I know what their motivation is. And if I know what they know, I can take all of that, make that NPC mine, and that's all I have to know. And then when it comes time to meet this NPC, just play him out as if these were my motivations. These are the things that I know. These are the things that I want. And this is how I act. And just be that person. And I find that that's really helped me instead of trying to take what the author wanted for someone. And then, of course, the author is impossible to think about every single question that the players could possibly ask an NPC or every potential interaction with an NPC. It's impossible for the dungeon master, it's impossible for the author of the adventure to think of all these things beforehand. It's just impossible. So instead of that, I just want to know what is it that they know, what is it that they want, and how is their demeanor. That's it. And then I can take it and make it my own. And once I started really embracing that, it's helped me for prepping. It's helped me to handle the NPCs during gameplay. So that's the big thing. The other thing that I used to do is really get into the strategy of the combat. And I've kind of went away from that a little bit because while there are players who are super technical and super strategic, if I really wanted to, as I have done before, I don't remember what session it was, but it's a campaign that did not make it to the end. Hint, hint, probably not a great idea to really lean into the strategy. I come from a background where I played a lot of tabletop war games when I was young. I'm really good at strategies for tactical combat. I have all the answers. I have I'm running all the creatures. I know everything about the players. It would be like too easy for me to really strategize how to beat them. I mean, I could do it, right? And what's the good there? Now, I wanted to give a realistic experience before, so I was really getting into, hey, these guys are setting up traps, they're setting up barricades, they're going to be really difficult to take on, and they were. And I wiped the floor with the players. They had to run away. I captured a couple. A lot of things happened. That campaign fell apart. lessons to be learned. So now I don't want the monsters to be stupid, but I don't spend so much time thinking about the strategies and everything. I don't think that's a good thing. And I can give a challenging combat to a party without having to go over the top with the strategy. Anyway, that is basically how I'm prepping for games now. Much simpler, much more focused on what could possibly happen, what do all the NPCs know, where have they been, and have a general idea of how to describe these places and what can possibly happen there. Players. Now, we've prepped for the game. Now we have players. So I kind of made a little note here. You know, I'm always musical references. Anybody who's ever played in a game of mine knows that my musical references are all over the place. Probably, I probably do less of them than I used to because, I don't know, sometimes I feel like people would get tired of hearing all these references. So I try to keep them to a minimum, but here we go. Players just want to have fun. That's it. There's my reference drop. And there it is in a nutshell, what I've learned in 250 games. We think we can read books on what players want, talk to the players about what they want, but in reality, they just want a consistent and fun game where they can get away from life for 3 hours and play something that's going to have continuity, has fun, and they finish it because people do like to finish what they start. And I find that if I worry too much about certain things, I'm just getting myself all wound up for nothing, when in reality, what I need to do is listen to my players. What is it that they want to get? What is it they want their players, their characters to do? Allow their characters to do many of these things. Try to give them opportunities to do the things that they enjoy to do. And the rest doesn't matter. You don't have to be a great dungeon master. If you're consistent, you listen to your players and you give them a good time, they're going to be happy with that, because that's not easy to find, sadly. That's the reality of TTRPGs and online play. It's just not very consistent, and it's difficult to be part of something that you know is going to finish, and you're going to, mostly enjoy it. And I hope that most of my players, if not all of my players, at least, the ones who stick around and finish campaigns, actually have enjoyed those campaigns. That, once again, means listen to them to understand what it is that they want. Try to let them have that. Don't let the rules get in the way, and let them do their thing and have fun. I don't have to create a Matt Mercer experience for my players to come back to the table. And that's something that all of dungeon masters need to really understand, is that we don't have to be the most dramatic and awesome dungeon masters out there, because, like everyone else, we have day jobs and other things going on. And sometimes, some nights, I feel like I'm not at my best. And I sometimes feel like, I could have gave them a better night, a better description of something, or could have did something a little bit different. I try not to focus on that like I did on my first 50 sessions or 100 sessions. I really would get a little upset about how I felt like maybe I wasn't giving a great time to a player, and they probably never even noticed and cared. That's the reality. As long as we listen to them and we don't try to jam something down their throats, allow them to play and interact and do the things that they had envisioned for their character to do. That's it. So that's the player portion, kind of sort of what I have learned and hopefully can continue to get better at. Adventures. Just like what I previously said about the players, they almost don't care about the adventure. Yes, there are adventures that are better than others. There are adventures way better written than others. One mistake that I have done And I've probably done it a few times in these 250 sessions. But I know for a fact that at conventions, I've done it multiple times as well, and it's a cardinal sin. It is something I have to really focus on and never do again. And that is, in a way, criticize the written material that I've been given to run. When I never wrote any of these stories that I'm running. And these are people who wrote them, obviously getting paid to write them. They're professionals in the industry. They're pretty damn good. And it just feels bad that I would criticize them or criticize the writing as almost like an excuse for maybe me not running something good. And when you run one shots, for example, like Adventurers League, and you're doing a story that has different chapters of it that are written by different writers, that's tough on continuity, and that's tough to run when you're trying to understand what they were trying to say. What I have done, sometimes well, sometimes not so well, is read over it, run it a couple times, and then come up with my own way of running it and cutting things and adding things and changing things a little bit to fit the way I tell a story and what I think would be more enjoyable. At the end of the day, the players, you gave them 3-4 hours of your time. You ran it consistent. You let them do their thing. They're happy. And they probably don't care a whole lot about the things that, damn, I can't find where the hell this map matches up with the other map. And where's these areas that are keyed to? It's kind of jumbled up. I don't understand where this is going. It doesn't really make sense. Or I have way too many rooms that make no sense. Like, why the hell are there 4 of these giant lizards sitting in a room that's like a closet? What the hell are they doing in there? And instead of, worrying about all that so much, just taking that material, presenting something enjoyable, and letting the players do what they want to do. And that's kind of what I do with adventures. Now, having said that, there's a lot of adventures and styles that I have mixed feelings about. So one of those is railroading. We talk about being railroaded. Players don't want to be railroaded, but some stories that are written have a progression that's like railroading. I mean, if we break down the Lord of the Rings and we say, okay, we're going to have the Lord of the Rings Open Sandbox Edition. They got players playing Frodo and the Hobbits, and they're like, I don't want to go take this ring over there. Let's go do this. Let's go hang out in Bree, or let's go to Rivendell and hang out with the elves. And I want to do this, and I want to do that. And then Aragorn, I just want to hunt down Nazgul, and Legolas is, well, I'm just going to do this. And they say, well, we'll go do that. But first, let's go here, and then let's go there, and let's check out this area because it's really cool, And hey, I want to spend some time in Mirkwood, Let's go to Mirkwood and see what's in there, and let's loot it, Some of that might sound like fun, but we would never get the actual story of the Lord of the Rings, right? And a lot of these books are kind of written that way. A great example would be the Dragonlance book. That story is a super railroad. But what it is a story that starts here, it goes there, it goes to the finish. So there's no real player, losing the word for it. Players don't have the ability to, because I lost the real word, do whatever they want. They're kind of forced into this. We're going to go to place A, B, C, D, E. Now, to run those types of adventures, it's easy. It's easy. And if you want to pull the wool over the eyes of the players a little bit, you can by just saying, hey, we can go here and we have this and that, and just always have them end up where they're going. They don't really know what's at these locations anyway. And they could just say, I'm going to go here. And it just so happens to be the next part of the story that you want to tell, because that's the way the story is built. That's not that hard, and it can be done well when you've done it a few times. But I think, once again, some players that get into that story, if the story's compelling enough, if the story's good, and they feel like their characters are motivated to see it to the end, then it's okay. It's okay to have a scripted, so to speak, point crawl, from part A of the script to B to C, all these scenes, right? Much easier to run as well. Open sandbox is interesting, but you have to be creative and you have to be someone who can improvise on the fly. Me personally, I think it's a blast. It's a blast because it's not boring, as I have no idea what players are going to do. And as long as we understand what the objectives are of the game and we keep it moving forward and don't allow the characters to get to a point where they're like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing anymore or where I'm supposed to be going. That's the Dungeon Master's job, to pick up the ball and place it. And one of the steps that they could go to, offer them different ones and let them take the next step, and boom, the story's on its way again. And those stories can have multiple avenues to get to the end. That's fun, but that is not easy, and that requires the absolute most prep time of any type of story. Now, all stories should be a mix of social exploration and combat, because you have a mix of players at your table and they are going to enjoy different things, right? But as I continue to run more and more and more games, I feel like, me personally, am more of a role-playing dungeon master, as I am more of a role player, than the combat and the point crawls or hex crawls. I believe that, thinking back to pre-COVID, I can't remember the year, but when my son came to me and said, hey, you got to play this game. I'm not going to tell you what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to tell you anything, but you've got to play this game. It's an 8-bit type graphics game, but it's got a great story. And that was Undertale. And I loved the story. And I did, spoiler. Hate to give spoilers, but I'm giving a spoiler. I did 0 combat in the entire story and loved it. Thought it was great. I think that eventually, if I ran a campaign like that, I think I could really enjoy it. I would have to have the right players. But I kind of feel like, as I do more and more sessions, learning what my strengths are and learning what it is that I enjoy most. And I think an unscripted story that the players surprise me with their own creativity and their own ideas and force me to be on my game to improvise with them and have my NPCs adapt to what they're doing and presenting them the world as they are shaping it is just, I think, where I get the most pleasure from running Dungeons and Dragons. So, final thoughts are, I really love the creativity of running role-playing games. All I'm doing is Dungeons and Dragons right now, as everyone knows, and it's been 250 sessions on start playing games with Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm on the verge to stepping out of that a bit. Not to say I'm not going to be doing Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm going to add to what I'm doing by running some other TTRPGs that are very, very, very story-based. There'll be more about that soon. But I want to get to 1,000 games for sure. I want to start playing games. And my entire objective for doing all of this is twofold. For anybody who wants to know, why do I do this? What am I trying to do? I am not trying to be a guy that's going to have so many captivating videos on YouTube and they say, oh my God, the production value of his videos is awesome. This production value sucks. And, I lowered my shades a little while ago because I said, man, the sun's setting over here, which if I could turn the camera, you would see I got a beautiful view, the sun setting over the downtown area of Barranquilla. A little shout out for my home, the town I'm living, or city. And as it keeps getting lower, I haven't lowered the blinds, and you can see the light on my face. That's the kind of production value we have here. I do have a Yeti microphone at least, and pretty decent computer. But this isn't about me getting 1 million views on YouTube and making money out of that. This is about me learning how to be creative, how to curate entertaining times for people. That's what I want to do. I want to entertain people and have them create stories that they remember for the rest of their lives. Things that they want to share with friends and family, things that they talk about when they're talking with friends and family. Oh, I had an amazing time last night playing. That's my goal. That is actually my goal. And through that, obviously not doing my day job and putting on events and running games full time and writing stories and writing books. And I'm going to maybe do podcast, audio type book, dramatization things that I'm really interested in thinking that could be pretty cool. And just really having events that are memorable. People maybe come to visit me in Colombia, in different cities, and have where you can do a little bit of tourism and play some Dungeons and Dragons, get a t-shirt, go home with great memories, and I think I'm, my server background from many years ago in customer service and bartender and waiter and all those things help make you where customer service oriented at a table, an in-person table. And I think that taking all these things and putting together and becoming the best dungeon master that I can possibly be, with the number one focus being, is the player having a great time and having events for that. Having events and campaigns that are memorable for people, and hopefully writing stories that are intriguing and people can enjoy. And that's what I want to do. So my goal is 1,000. So here's to another 750 sessions if my players allow it. And yeah, that's it. That's kind of my thoughts for 250 sessions on Start Playing Games. I would definitely like to thank my 3 Patreon members. Give them a shout out to Nathan, to John, and to Alex. I still only have 3. Of course, I'm also very bad at self-promotion. I do not really like it sometimes. I feel like it's almost cringy, and I know that sounds terrible, right? Because we should all, if I'm going to be doing this and if I want to create a following or something like that, I have to self-promote. I don't know sometimes, I feel like, and I'm not great at self-promoting, so I only have 3 people on my Patreon. If you're interested in joining those 3 people, you can find the link below this video and join. Now, right now, I've only got a $10 tier. That might sound like a lot. I do plan on giving free stuff and writing articles and stuff. You'll find that there's only 1 article up. That's not such a great thing. But I will be doing more, and I want to thank those 3 people who are supporting me and helping me to eventually, hopefully one day, reach my goals. And I appreciate everyone who plays, and absolutely everyone who's given me a review on Start Playing Games. If you're a player of mine and you have not, please go and give me a review on Start Playing Games. And I guess let me know what you think. And of course, if you're a player with me, especially some of my longtime players, that I've got a group now that's been well over 50 sessions with me. And I would like to say thank you to them. You're all very important to me, and I absolutely learn something from every single one of you. So, hey, thank you so much for playing at my table and helping me reach my goals and become better at this craft. You guys have a great session with me eventually, And I'll be seeing you in the next episode. Good night.